What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about 3 different ways that you can be a badass medical school applicant. And I say this because I was in a clubhouse room the other day and we talked about this topic. And I just thought the content that was thrown out was so valuable that I wanted to share it with all of you. So with that said, let's get started. So the motivation behind this video is that medical school applications are coming up, and so I wanted to make sure you guys, my subscribers, were well informed about it and at least had the idea of what makes a good application really stand out from some of the other applications. And I say this as someone who has had extensive conversations with people now who have gotten into very great medical schools, especially over the last 4 years. I've really started to understand a little bit about, what do I look for in a potential future classmate, but also like what people are the ones that are the most successful when they apply to medical school, and why is that the case? And one of the things that I want to make sure you realize is the first thing is time is of the essence. The timeline to get into medical school is very intense. As we discussed right here, the application opens up between May and June. You're going to have interviews in September to potentially February, and then acceptances happen in March and April. But in this application process between May and June, and then also like as interviews start happening, you need to be on top of like knowing when to submit AMCAS. You need to submit AMCAS as early as possible. Once you have AMCAS submitted, you're going to start getting secondaries. Most people have secondaries pre-written and submit them right away. And I say this right now to all of you because it's still April and you're still ahead of the game. But the moment you start slacking on this, that's where you're already going to get a big disadvantage. So if you really want to be a badass medical school applicant, make sure you know all of the deadlines. The timeline is already set in stone. AMCAS already tells you when the primary application is going to open up. It tells you when it's the first day that you can submit it. And almost everyone who I know gets into a great institution and knows how to do the med school game well is the one who submits very early, because as I said, the rules are already set and we all need to play by them. And if you don't decide to play by them, if you're the person who says, I'm going to submit my secondaries late, because that's what I did. And even though it worked out okay for me, it doesn't always. And so definitely realize that the rules are set, and you want to make sure that if you're going to apply to medical school, you know exactly when the deadlines are and you use them to your advantage. When you don't play by these rules and you're not aware of them, you're already at a disadvantage. And this is all the more compounded by the fact that applying to medical school is really expensive. I spent upwards of about like a couple $1,000s just applying, and then when you add in interviews, it was a very expensive process, and you don't want to do it more than once if you don't have to. So with that being said, make sure you know all the deadlines. Make sure you know when secondaries come out. Make sure that once you get the secondaries, you turn them in within 2 weeks. Because if you don't turn them in within 2 weeks, the chances of you getting an interview, whatever they were, slowly start decreasing because those interview slots will start to fill up. So with that being said, that's the first way you can make sure you're a badass med school applicant. Know your deadlines and know exactly how you're going to turn that shit around, because otherwise you will be at a disadvantage. The second way that you really can stand out is to know what your X factor is. The one thing that every medical school secondary application will ask you is, how are you a diverse applicant? And while diversity can definitely refer to different facets of who you are as a person, whether that's race, sexuality, try to think way beyond that. Try to think about what you bring to medical school as an individual. Some of the things that were brought out in my clubhouse room when we talked about this is one applicant who is at UCSF. He's a race car driver. He loves racing cars. And he talks a bit about how that experience has led him to be a leader, and why that ultimately is why he wants to be a neurosurgeon. And some other people talk a bit about like people who have had experiences that they leverage. So for example, if you've been in the Army before, if you've been in the Navy before, if you know for a fact you love community service, talk about that. Talk about what makes you different, right? Because when you go to interview at a medical school, or when someone finishes reading your medical school applications, and trust me, they read a lot of them. They read potentially thousands. They need to be able to summarize you. They don't need to see you as, oh, it's Prerak, he's just another brown dude who's applying to medical school. They need to see him as, oh my god, I remember Prerak is the guy that made that board game. Oh, I remember Prerak's the guy who loves running. He loves running so much he like wants to run with his patients and he wants to have his own running clinic. I thought that was really cool. That is the stuff they remember. They don't remember the cliche, oh, I want to help people. They don't remember the cliche, I love science. They remember the people who are really, really novel. They remember the people who are like, dude, I want to change healthcare in this way. I want to be a physician entrepreneur. I want to be someone who helps increase value-based care. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I want to do it. You may think that you're really young and naive to do that right now, but believe it or not, that's actually to your advantage. Because once you're in medicine, I genuinely think that you slowly start losing that wear and tear because you start realizing healthcare is tough and some of these solutions may not be feasible. But because you don't have that exposure yet, you can bring innovation to the table. You can bring your enthusiasm, and people love that. So try to really think about what makes you diverse. What do you want to change in healthcare? How do you want to change it? And how are you going to make that change? And another way to really think about these case studies is to think about individuals who get into medical school who then end up doing amazing stuff, that are your role models. Where do you see yourself in 30 years? Who do you want to be like and why? And that can really inform the way that you're diverse, the way that you're going to stand out from the crowd. And if you want any help with this, I have a video on it. Just like I linked the video before, I'm going to link it right above. This is the diversity video, and it shows you how to answer the diversity question, which I guarantee will show up. So, second way to be a badass applicant, figure out how you are diverse. The third way to be a badass applicant, and I guarantee you will thank me for this, is to realize you are more than your numbers. I know medical school is competitive. I know you need a certain GPA to get in. You probably won't get in if you have a 1.0 and a 480 on your MCAT. But with all of that being said, please, please, please realize you are more than your numbers and don't let anyone give you a hard time about it. If your intentions are true and you believe that you've tried your hardest, your absolute hardest, and you've improved your grades when they were lower, you improved your MCAT score, and you really have put in the effort, don't let anyone tell you that you don't have the numbers to apply to medical school, because guess what? You are more than your numbers. And I know that that is a very cliche thing to say, but the problem is right now, my concern is people get so stuck with numbers that they often do things just for the sake of numbers, and they do it for the wrong reason. You should be going into medicine because you want to do something beneficial for humanity, not because you have good grades and you have the best MCAT score and that means you're going to be the best doctor. Because believe it or not, if you think like that right now, it doesn't get any easier in medical school. In medical school, there's always people who are like, oh, my step score is a 270 plus. My step score is like a 260 plus. My step score is a 250 plus. And that's just a very bad way of thinking about medicine. Medicine is not about numbers. Medicine never has been about numbers. Medicine is about coming to someone who may be at the lowest point in their life, connecting with them, and being able to say, we don't entirely know what's going on right now, but I'm going to try my best to help you through it, right? That's what medicine is about. And so please, please, please leverage that. One of the best parts about the U.S. medical school application that I really love and respect is that they do holistic reviews. They don't care if you have a 3.0. If you can show them that you were an Army medic who took care of individuals and now that motivated you to be a medical doctor, I would take that individual over like a 528 4.0 student who has yet to really figure out why they want to do medicine. I would take that individual any day. And I know that I'm not on an AdCom, but I just want you to know that being a doctor is more than just numbers, okay? And believe it or not, keep fighting. Keep fighting. There will be people who are watching this video who haven't gone to medical school, and you're reapplying, that's fine. There will be people who are watching this video who may not get into medical school in the future. Guess what? Failure is a thing. You not getting in right now is probably a blessing in disguise, because I guarantee by you not getting in right now, you will know what it's like to fail, and you'll know what it's like to get the frick back up and do it again. And guess what? I failed in medical school. I've had ups and downs. I've had multiple issues with my personal health, family health, and guess what? You're just going to be stronger for it. So even if you don't get in, keep fighting. Realize you're more than your numbers, because trust me, people far, far crazier and outlandish than you have gotten into medical school and done it, and you are going to be no exception. I want to end with this quote that made me feel really good inside, and I retweeted it. So follow me on Twitter if you don't already. But just remember that the smartest and best doctors that people notice are the ones who treat students and incoming medical students and even shadowing students like their colleagues. And they're also the ones who are the most humble in understanding that they don't know everything and that they're not above anyone else and that their position is purely like to help people feel better and not to show them what's right and what's wrong, right? And this made me feel really good because this really is what medicine is about. And this is how you will be a badass medical school applicant. If you can internalize this meaning and realize that, okay, you may not be the smartest person, you may not have the best grades, and you probably don't have a 4.0, but guess what? You have a willingness to learn. You probably have a willingness to help others. And as long as you can bring something to the table, I see no reason why medical school wouldn't love to have you. So those 3 tips are my ways of hopefully keeping you aware of what it takes to be a medical school student. And what I've seen stand out from individuals, if they can really epitomize this aspect, if they show humility and they show that they're there for the right reasons, I have seen very few people who, when I connect to them in that level, who are unsuccessful. They usually do very, very well. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.